Hi, this is a tutorial for how to do some basic adaptive music in Unreal's built-in MetaSounds interface. Uh, I, having had to teach myself Unreal and MetaSounds, had a lot of trouble with it. And so, whilst this is far from the only type of adaptive music or the only way to do even this type of adaptive music, if you're having trouble like me, I hope this can be a good jumping off point to do something like this, where as you can see the music, and then when you jump, another element of the music gets added. Okay, so I've created a new blank I've used the third person template. And so we're going to open the content drawer. And first things first, this is just a general Unreal recommendation. I highly recommend first dock in layout, and then I also recommend right-clicking and adding another content browser. That it is just very helpful when you need to move back and forth between multiple folders. I find this incredibly helpful. So in this browser one, we're going to create another folder called audio. And this is pretty broad, and in general, it should probably create different folders for different types of audio, but for the purpose of this, we're just going to use one. And then the other one, we're going to go to the third person folder. The level is already open, and we're going to go to blueprints and third person character. And we're going to find the jump part. So first things first, if we want to update the music based off the how many times the character jumps, we first need to create a jump counter variable. So we're going to go in here, create a variable called jump counter, and we're going to set it as an integer. So we're going to we're going to set it so that after you jump, it sets jump counter. Every time you jump, it sets jump counter to, we're going to extend this a bunch, sets jump counter to get jump counter plus, or add, I should say, so jump counter plus 1. So jump counter, it's going to start at 0, and it's going to be jump counter plus 1. And then we're going to create a function called update music. And so as you can see, you can move back and forth, and we can close these. So now we are updating every time you jump. It adds to the jump counter, and then after adds the jump counter, it is going to update music. Now, to be fair, you could do this in one big blueprint, but for the purposes of some level of organization, we're going to be doing it in a sub blueprint. However, before we do anything in this sub blueprint or function, I guess, we need to create a MetaSounds blueprint. So minimize this for a second. Go here and you can press add a MetaSound source specifically, and we'll call it adaptive music. And in this MetaSound source, this is what it looks like. And so for the purpose of this, you can ignore this. It does have uses, but not one that we need to worry about. You can ignore the warning. That's no problem. We're also quickly going to update the output so that it is actually, go here, you can update the output to be stereo instead of mono. That is depending on the type of file you have, but in here we're going to open up a wave player, and again we're doing stereo, and we need, of course, some files. So I'm going to import from a different project. I'm going to import all of this I don't need all of them, but I'm just going to import all of them. And it takes these wave files and imports them as sound wave files, which are used for Unreal. So take these, and I'm going to select the guitar backing, and if you set to on play, and then out left and out right off the bat, you can hear it play. So I'll also make sure to set to loop. However, we don't want this to just be, we're actually going to break these because we're also going to add, of course, other wave players. So we're actually going to add, be adding, let's say 4 more. And make sure all of them are set to loop. If you're doing it like I am, where you just want a looping piece of music that continuously has elements added, make sure, maybe this goes without saying, but make sure all of the different pieces, all the different stems or bits of music are the same tempo and same length, of course. Just make sure. But you can't, unfortunately, you can't just put this 2 different things with the same output. It removes that one. So you have to add a mixer. So we're going to do a stereo mixer of these 5 different things, and the output is going to be the left and the right. So output left and output right. We're going to move that over here, and then we're going to connect each of these to the respective place. And as you can see, it's already getting some, the blueprint is already getting somewhat large, so that's why I highly recommend that you try to keep it organized, at the very least for yourself, but in general, especially if you end up working on a team where multiple people are working on the audio, it's a good idea to keep things organized for everyone, but even just for yourself, it's a good thing to keep things organized. And when you add all of these, so I'm going to add different, of course, so for this one, we'll add the bass backing. For this one, we'll add the drums. For this, we'll add the guitar lead, and this will add the keys. So, and then of course connect this to play each of them. And then when you play it, it plays all of them at once. And from here, you can also you can mix the volume of each of them. I've already rendered them out mixed, so they're registering that way. But they're also important because we don't want them playing all at once right off the bat. We want each one playing at specific times. So this one we want playing from the start, so that's fine. But we are actually going to, for each of these, create an input. An input, we'll call this one bass backing, for the bass backing. And you can set it to none. And unless you want it to start, make sure the default stays as 0. It'll be that automatically, but just make sure it stays that way. Oh, wrong place. So break this one. So the bass backing will go to the bass backing gain, and then we'll create 3 more for each of them. So the drums, set that one to none. No, not slider, to none. The guitar lead, and there's only one guitar lead in this specific example, but if you have that named file, I think it's important to try and keep things consistent. And of course the keys, chords. So each of these has these will get its own input. Oh, I didn't set to none, and So how do we get these inputs? And that is where this blueprint comes in. So we have the jump count, but we can't just use the jump count. First, we need to create a component. So I'm going to add an audio component, and we're going to call it adaptive music, and that we're going to set the adaptive music component to the adaptive music MetaSounds blueprint. So now if you go down here to components, you will find this audio component. You can say get, and now it is set to this MetaSounds blueprint. So from there, we need to set these inputs. So if you go here to set float parameter for, of course, adaptive music. Oh, it created another one for me. And type in bass underscore backing. It will set the specified input of the targeted attribute to this float. So we need to do this for each of the components. So we need one for drums. We need one for the guitar lead one, and we need one for the keys chords, and make sure all of the names are exactly the same. However, we also need a way to set the floats, because you can't just obviously they need to be set. So we are actually going to set this a little bit back, and we are going to open a sequence in between these two things. And even though it set it to the first one, we're actually going to set it so that it is the last one of 5. Break this. So before it goes through and sets all of these, we need to set variables for each of the gains applicable to these inputs. So first, we're going to create 4 more variables: bass, backing, gain, 1 for each of the different ones, and make sure they are set to float. So bass, backing, gain, drums, gain, guitar, lead, 01, gain, and keys, chords, gain. And if you get that one, you can set it to, make sure to set each one to each of the corresponding of the float parameter setters. And of course, after this, also of course, you make sure that the adaptive music, the target of each of these is the adaptive music, and so of course, don't forget to do that. Each of these variables needs to be set. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a branch, which is the true or false statement for Unreal. And the condition is going to be if jump count is greater than or equal to, let's say for this one, it's 1, then if that's true, then the bass backing will set the bass backing gain, set it to 1. And if it is not, if it is false, then we'll set it to 0. And we can do this for all of, so we can copy this 3 more times, and of course setting the value as appropriate each time. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then for each of them, of course, set the corresponding can't do that. Okay, so you can also do it that way. So 1 and 0, so that's the drums game. The guitar game. So 1 and 0, and the keys. To 1 and 0. Okay, so, and then set each of the sequence nodes to them in sequence. So now, every time, I'll make sure to compile it too, of course. So now every time a jump is called, it will update the jump counter, and then we'll update the music to go and check the jump counter to make sure that to see if it has reached a specific threshold. And once it has reached a specific threshold, it will make sure to update the gain of each of the different parameters, and then it will send it to the blueprint. And once each threshold met, it will add each element to the overall mix. So if we now play this, first of all, since the component is set to the character, you can hear the music, but right now it's only playing the first part. But then when you jump, it adds the bass backing, because the jump counter is now 1. And so if you jump again, add the drums, jump again, adds guitar lead, jump again, and adds the chords. And when you keep jumping, it's run out of things to add, but congratulations, if you've been following along, you have now created an adaptive music system with using vertical mixing. This is fairly simple, but I think if I had this would have been a great help to me to add it to a more complex system. There are, of course, more complex ways to go about it, but if you are having trouble like I was, like I said, I hope this could have been a good jumping off point for you to learn some of the basics. So yeah, I hope if anyone's watching this, I hope they found it helpful.